Hmm. Okay, I think we can start. Good morning,
Everybody.
everyone. Just to introduce this last session for our World Continence Week program, we've had a very busy week. This is the 7th session we've had this week, which is quite a feat for WFIPP, and I believe we've had over 300 registrations, and not everyone will watch live, but they will certainly pick up on demand at a later stage. Why are we doing this World Continence Week? And I must say, for the first time, I really get genuinely the feeling that we're getting somewhere. People are beginning to sit up and take notice of this very burdensome condition, and including the scientific societies. We have the EAU now very focused on functional neurology, and WFIPP is a prime player in this new context there. And the idea of the non-communicable diseases and chronic disease to give it its rightful place. Of course, throughout the world I've been watching, and it's amazing the number of events that have been taking place. We've even, immediately after this, I have to do a video for someone, a company in India, who've been bugging me all week to produce something for them. But we are getting far and wide. And with that far and wide, this is very much a call to action. Thanks to our collaboration with the Global and European Connected Health Alliance, we've teamed up to see how we can join the dots, so to speak. And the best way to join the dots is to literally work together, to collaborate, and to bring into being the launch of this continence ecosystem. Andy's going to tell us all about what an ecosystem is for those of you like me who haven't a clue. So we hope by the end of this session we'll be a lot wiser, but not just a lot wiser. This means literally the involvement of everyone. A call to action means that we all have to do our bit and play our part from whichever stakeholder group we belong to. So that's enough from me. Please mute your mics, everybody. Please speak slowly and clearly. Not everyone is a native English speaker. Everything will be recorded and will be available. And I would say, Andy, over to you, and thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Lynn, and good morning and welcome to all the people who are tuning into this live and also watching it on Catch Up TV, which is, I think, one of the nice things about using facilities like this. And welcome to this, the first of our thematic ecosystems on the subject of continence that we're partnering with the WFIPP with. My name's Andy Bleeden, and I work for the European Connected Health Alliance, the ECH Alliance. What I want to try and do in as short a space of time as possible is talk a little bit about who we are, but almost as importantly, why we're doing this today. And then later I'll come back to you and say, well, what we want to do if you're interested in getting involved with this. So let's just talk about who we are. As I said, I work for an organisation called the European Connected Health Alliance. We're a member organisation. So people join us because they want to do as Lynn's just said, which is to connect at some of those dots globally. What that means in practice is we have around 900 member organisations that have joined us, like WFIPP. Many of those are, or the vast majority of those are not-for-profits. So we'll put a link in the chat function for you if you want to join. It's free to join if you're a not-for-profit. We have around probably about 80 to 90 patient groups that are members of the ECH Alliance. They join us along with hospitals, universities, research organisations and government bodies and care organisations and companies because they want to connect up the dots in the field of, like today, continence, or it might be on mental health, etc. We do that with the aid of our network. So our connections are your connections if you're a member. And we do that and we bring together people from all those different stakeholder groups in our ecosystems, which are now dotted around all over the globe. We'll talk about where they are in a moment. We ourselves are also a not-for-profit organisation with offices in Ireland and in the UK. But our reach is global. And the larger our network and community becomes, the more connections there are for people to connect up. So we can link up today people from maybe Europe with Argentina and Australia in a way we couldn't have done before the pandemic. People join us usually because they want to promote themselves, promote their organizations and what they do. They usually want to talk about their needs or their solutions or their research programs. But they also join us specifically, and our reason to be is around that making direct connections. So if I don't have a contact within the field of continence, for instance, in Spain, I can go to Yana and ask her, or I can go to Pedro to also get a different view, because those connections are all joined together. That's a value that we bring. And we also enable people to access our ecosystems, as well as get involved with funding projects. And like a lot of member organisations, we offer discounts on events and other things, free tickets for events to go to. But primarily people join us for that ecosystem engagement piece. This term ecosystem is used quite liberally, but we mean it in a quite basic sort of setup, which are permanent multi-stakeholder gatherings, bring together all those stakeholders you can see in front of you, but with the patient and citizen at the centre, leading with a need, with a focus on matching need and solution, not the other way around. That's important to get across. Leading with the need and matching that with solutions and best practice. They're there to break down the silos that still exist and getting worse in digital health and in health in general, between organisations and more and so now within organisations. They're also there to create economic growth, but with an international perspective, bringing in the benefit of having an international network of ecosystems. You can see in front of you a range of where they are, and we're opening up more all the time. So we're just about to launch one in Paris and also elsewhere across Sweden potentially, and in other countries too. But you can see there the depths of some of our network. Now you might be involved with some of those ecosystems, or maybe even want to link up with them. Again, contact me, Andy at echalliance.com, and better still join us and we can plug you into that network. That network likes to collaborate. And one of the ways they do that specifically, and I'll come to that now, is with our thematic ecosystems. So the same approach, need and solution, but on a thematic basis, topic by topic by topic. And we'll talk more about the thematic ecosystem approach in a moment. But today you can see here in front of you the range of different thematic ecosystems we have. The ecosystem we work with in partnership with WFIPP is our first ever patient-led ecosystem. So many of these other thematics are led by our ecosystems and partners, but specifically on the field of continence, we wanted to try and test a model of actually leading a patient-led ecosystem. So with the topics we've got lined up on stigma, working with young people, and also on sustainable products, we'll be able to go each time looking at what's the need and what's the best practice. I'm going to stop talking now, stop sharing my screen, and we'll get on to our next topic, which if I just pull my screen up here, is going to be bringing in input now from one of our first pre-recorded videos, which is from Monica, who's going to talk about the specific needs of the incontinence target group. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague, who's going to share a screen and the video from Monica, who's from the Netherlands, and I think gives a unique perspective on what those needs are. Just bear with us. and we'll come to the video very shortly.
Hello everyone. My name is Monica de Heijden from the Dutch patient organization Bekkenbodem for All. And thanks to the WFIPP for the invitation to share my thoughts and experiences on the specific needs of the incontinence target group. My experiments are mostly based on the Dutch situation, but I hope patient organizations in other countries will recognize most of the needs of the Dutch patients who have to cope with incontinence, with pelvic problems, and with gynecological problems. Bekkenbodem for All is a kind of ecosystem in itself. In the center are our patients, and they share with us their experiences and their specific needs. And by doing so, they help us making priorities in our strategy and our action plans. As a patient organization, we distinguish three tasks. First of all, we think all patients are experience experts, and we help each other by sharing our experiences. This may be in the field of a medical treatment, but also about how incontinence is influencing our quality of life and how to cope with it. Our second task is to inform patients about all the aspects of incontinence, from self-management to all kinds of medical treatments. And we want to give an independent overview of the patient journey and all the treatment options there are. And thirdly, we represent patients in all kinds of projects and activities, and especially in the field of research, innovation, and guidelines. And to realize all these tasks, we have our own infrastructure. In fact, we have our own small ecosystem. For example, we have our own medical advice council with doctors and nurses and physiotherapists from all relevant disciplines. We are also a member of working groups that make medical guidelines. We are with other patient organizations with related problems. We have a lot of contacts, for example, with patients with spinal cord injury. They also have incontinence problems. And we are also part of a network of suppliers of incontinence products, where we talk about the quality and the price and the infrastructure and the distribution of incontinence products. In this network, or this ecosystem, as you can call it too, with our patients in the center of it, this ecosystem has given us a lot of ideas about the specific needs of the incontinence of target groups. Firstly, I would like to focus on the need of information. We see that there is an enormous amount of information. My favorite is the website Support Incontinence, but we also do have our own website, Dutch website. There are magazines, there are leaflets, for example, from the IUGA, which are fantastic, and there are a lot of webinars. And I'm not going to say that there's too much information, but there is a group of patients who's a little bit overwhelmed by, in the sense that it sometimes might be difficult to decide what information is useful for your personal situation. Because let's not forget it, 1/3 of women continue living with incontinence symptoms due to the fear of surgery and all the negative experiences they have heard with slings in the past. So that is where we think that patient decision aids are very important, not only to have an overview of all the treatment options, but also treatment. This can make it possible to compare all the options by explaining the benefits and the risks. And it is important to make a choice that you feel is right for you. And this will depend on your individual circumstances and how you feel about each type of surgery of other treatments. And a very important improvement, we think, in the future would be that this decision aid and this decision process will be more personalized. What are the benefits and the risk of a treatment given my specific situations and my body? What are the risks given the quality of my muscles and my tissue and my lifestyle and so on? And we think it's not only a task of scientists and researchers to make such a decision aid. The participation of patients can also be of a great value. What they could do is share their own data about their own health situation and therapies to learn from each other. And we call this a kind of system, patients like me. And this is especially interesting when patients have more therapies at the same time. And we know these kind of initiatives are quite young. You can find them especially in the USA, but it would be quite interesting to find out if this sharing of data could also be a part of the international incontinence ecosystem. The second need of incontinence patients is related to medical guidelines. It is excellent that patients are already involved in making such guidelines, national as well as international, and we feel that the opinion of patients is taken more and more seriously by healthcare professionals. But till now, it's a very limited group of patients who are involved in those groups, and we think there should be an infrastructure where we can ask a lot of patients from all over the world. And I think that is something which should do with all the other patient organizations. And still there could be some more improvements, because in the guidelines there should also be more attention about the way a patient is informed about the treatment. We think there should be quality standards about the way patients are informed and how they are involved in the decision-making process for the best treatment. And it also should be checked if a patient really is able to understand the treatment and also its consequences, and especially for patients, for people who do not have enough health skills. Then I would like to go on to the third need of incontinence patients, and that is related to research and innovation. Well, I think this week we have seen very good how companies are constantly improving and innovating, like Nuven Therapeutics about the regeneration of muscles. But not this week, but we have seen in other situations also how in conservative treatment, like for example, pessaries, they exist for more than 2000 years. And yet researchers still go on improving and making better designs, which are more personalized pessaries for specific patients. And that is a great initiative. What would be even better is that patients are not only involved in what I call the middle of each research project, where you need the patients to check if the treatment is really working well. The patient can also be very useful during the design of a research proposal, and also helping to analyze the results and communicate about them. And very important, also the long-term outcomes of research must be taken into account. Well, finally, I would like to conclude that research and innovations and guidelines should not only be focused on medical innovation. I think there are some other needs that are quite important for patients. There should be a focus on the psychological and social stress that is caused by incontinence, and it is important to do everything together to tackle the taboo about incontinence. And furthermore, we feel that sustainability of incontinence materials is becoming more and more an important theme for patients, without making them feel guilty, but it should also be a theme in their search for solutions for their incontinence problems. And finally, I think as an ecosystem, we should also strive for infrastructure with more public toilets for everyone. Well, thanks WFRPP for the invitation to share all my thoughts and experiences about the specific needs on the incontinence target group of Dutch patients. I am very interested to learn about your priorities and your needs. Thank you very much.
So that was excellent input from Monica there. I think just taking that challenge that she just raised there, what we've got now is the ability to gauge your priorities. So in the chat function below, you should now see a link to a Padlet, which is where we can actually put in what your priorities will be for this ecosystem, because that's, instead of me just saying quite liberally, oh, well, this is a patient-led ecosystem, and then going on with what my priorities are, I want to hear from you. So if you click on the link that's in the chat function, you can address that, and I'll just share my screen so you can see what that looks like. Let me just share my screen. you'll see here how I can then add in the type of priorities. Click on the button on the right hand side and add in my priorities. So we've got some time to just pause and reflect here. We've got about 5-10 minutes to pick up on these. So let's add what we can to that now, and we'll gather those together and share some of those results in about 5 minutes. But we want to know what your priorities are. You know, are they around stigma? Is it about information? Is it about what we've seen in the press this week, the labelling language that's used by the media around continence, and also the types of images we see? Is it around the way in which young people are vastly ignored, etc.? So I'm interested to see those and see what people's priorities are. If you could add those in to the Padlet that's there in front of you, and we'll share with these afterwards. I'm also keen to hear what you think are some of the opportunities we've got too, because they're not always here to understand what the problems are. There might be opportunities we think we're missing, whether it's the engagement of different stakeholder groups, or indeed the engagement of younger people, which we're perhaps missing, which seem to be not involved with the wider network and the ecosystem. So again, use the link that's in the chat function. If you could add some of your priorities, I've put one in there about sustainability, because for me, health and the field of health seems to have a golden ticket to say we don't have to be sustainable. So just in any other field, the field of continence, plastic is introduced liberally by solution providers and without any consequence. And it seems to be that because it's in the subject of health, that's fine. But I don't think it is. I think it's about time that we had a discussion a bit wider about how we can include more sustainable products.
I'm just going to interrupt for a second, Andy.
Yeah.
I'm on that link, and I don't know if others are finding that where to actually add something or how.
On the bottom on the right hand side, there should be a plus button.
Oh yeah, okay. The plus.
I always think it's really not obvious when I open this. I always think, okay, so
the plus sign, yeah. Okay, sorry.
No problem. I'll just show people again, so people can see here. I'll share my screen and let's try. I'll give you an example. So, not that one. I'll just get the right screen. Hang on. Share my screen. Single window. Let's try that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see some coming up. So we've got some around training of patients, education. I think the role of companies. So this is what I'm doing. I'm adding in as we speak. So people, they're coming in. Lots of access and knowledge. Be interesting to know what if we've got any acronyms in. Please explain what they are, because not everyone is au fait with different labels. So if we can explain those, that'd be kind of useful in your Padlet window. Here we go. Collaboration between patient and doctor. Lovely. This is really helpful. Lovely. I think the other one is around. Excellent. So we've got plain language. Yeah. Okay. Just a few more moments. I'll go back and see what we've got, and then I'll do a quick roundup at the end. Again, this is really helpful because it helps us try and tackle not just what we think are our priorities, but the priorities from people that are going to be involved with this as a stakeholder. So it's important we get your pictures as well. Okay, common terminology. Okay. Input 2, yeah. Okay. So, whilst these are still coming in, I'll give another moment, and then I'm going to start. I'll share my screen so we can see what we've collated, and this will help us, as I said, build in those topics that we need for the rest of the gatherings that we'll bring together. There's some common threads here which I think are helpful. I'm going to just go another moment just for the last. And I think that the one that was missing. Okay, so I'm just going to give last moment, and then I'll share my screen. We'll come up with what we've got. Okay, so let's share my screen. So hopefully you can see my screen now. Yeah, it says you can, so hopefully you can. But you can see the type of priorities that we've got here. Let's just pick a few. We've got access to modern treatment, use of common terminology, join an endorsement of WCW. I'm sure that's World Continence Week, I hope. Access, the role for or input from vulnerable groups, and not just white middle class females. Interesting. Not just focusing on Europe and a more global approach. That's very linked together. More PAGs working together. I'm assuming that's a patient advisory groups, but I'm not so sure. Again, please, if you can expand on what these terminologies mean. Role of companies is in here, as well as the role of various stakeholders like research and organizations like that. Patient-doctor collaboration, more testimonials, okay. And also, this is quite an interesting one here, to raise the awareness of all comorbidities which are dealing with incontinence as involved, because obviously we're not just a single unit here. We're talking about people who've got, as we all do, multiple things going on in our lives, not just one topic. There's also involved some role here about these things around sustainability, and also using non-childish language and knowledge based on evidence-based medicine. And lastly, there's one I always throw in, I have a whole man's up with, which is about where's the money? Considering the spend on this, where is this being focused? How can we make that more sustainable, etc.? So you can see some of those. We'll capture those, and we'll share those wider amongst the ecosystem in the follow-up to this. What I want to do now is, in some ways, is that call to action piece, because the idea about development of an ecosystem, as I said at the beginning of this, it's around bringing together both need and solution. So we will, with each of those topics that we target, bring in and represent what's the need, whether it's to do with stigma, but also where does best practice, what does best practice look like? Because that's often where people say, okay, well, this is what we're doing. Like we heard from Monica just now, that the role of what's happening in the Netherlands, but what happens in Sweden? And we're here later about that, but also what happens in Africa or in India in this topic? How's this tough? Because there's a stigma in one country, it's going to be in many other countries as well. So what we're looking to do is work on that basis with each of those challenges and say, okay, for instance, on stigma, what's the need in terms of the work that patients actually feel around this? And also, what about their carers, their family? What input can we bring in? What's the need from research organisations? Because they might turn around and say, well, we just don't know. This is a new area for us. What do they need in terms of is it access to testimonials like we saw in the Padlet chat just now? And also from policymakers, it might be interesting to think, well, what do they know? Because their understanding of this, given taboos, given stigma, is going to be limited. And also from the health and social care side, what's the need for doctors and nurses and care staff who are involved with working with people but have no training in the subject of continence management at all, and certainly no input for working with patients? Many of those different stakeholders have never met each other, so we're encouraging all those stakeholders to email us and get involved with this ecosystem and join the thematic ecosystem on continence, because we need that input. We also then want to connect those groups up because many of them have never met. Interestingly enough, if we physically connect up the researchers with the government bodies, with the patient groups, with the healthcare professionals, we're going to do something that up till now has not happened so much. By bringing in those stakeholders, we can also then flip the question and say, well, what does good practice look like in the field of managing stigma? Where are some, and we'll hear from those in a moment, perhaps in Spain, but where are the other best practices that we've got around the world that we can actually share? Because we think we know everything, we don't. But we also think everybody knows what we do. And again, the answer is we don't. So it's about showcasing some of those best practices, primarily so we can share that best practice and knowledge, but also so we don't reinvent the wheel from one country to another. So we're not starting at ground zero as we're working in the field of stigma. We can learn from what's happened in Scotland or Spain or Northern Ireland or Moldova. Because we've got that wider network, we can bring that in and ask for input. Again, those organisations won't know each other. We think they do, but we work in silos, as I've mentioned at the beginning. So by trying to bring in those stakeholders from different groups, whether it's funders or companies, and bring their input in, then we can start doing what I said right at the beginning, which is to start to connect up some dots between different organisations. What we can also do is then say, okay, we've got the need and we've got the solution, best practices. Where can we collaborate more? So one of the things we'll do with our next thematic ecosystem, covering the topic of stigma, is to say, okay, where are there opportunities to bring in best practice into those areas of need that we've identified? Where can we help match up and connect up some of those dots and look at either potential projects, information sharing, or maybe even look for some funding for some further research? Because the concept of ecosystems, as I said, isn't just around breaking down silos, it's also about transforming healthcare. So actually doing something. That's important because we also see there's that last opportunity also to involve companies in this and offer economic opportunities, because people are spending vast amounts of money in this area. So we need to involve the companies to help them take advantage of that, because that's helps with providing economic growth for this field, and we've all heard about the fact that that's needed. Then lastly, what we try and do is think to companies, look, you've heard what the need is, tell us what you've got after you've heard that need, or even where you'd like to come in and pitch your solutions. Because again, a company trading in Spain or in Sweden has no access to the type of network we can bring into this ecosystem. So we'll try and build in there some pitch opportunities for companies to come in and share their product, because they told us in many other fields they struggle to get other people to understand what they've got because the market's so huge and so diluted. So that's what I'm asking for today. If you're interested in this getting involved as a stakeholder, please email me, andy@echalliance.com, or join us as a member, or let WFIPP know that you're interested in coming involved in this as a stakeholder, and we will help plug you in where we've got those opportunities around stigma or sustainability or working with young people where we can. Let's move on now, because I'm conscious of time. We want to keep the time with this. What we're going to do now is do what we just talked about, which is look at some best practice. So we've got input now from Pedro Biasco, who's a urologist. He's going to give some input from Spain on some best practice there. So if we could share this next video, please. Pedro, I think you're joining us here, but we've got a video for you here. So let's hear from Pedro.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pedro Blasco. I'm a urologist, head of Department of Urology at the Balme Hospital at the south of Spain in Seville. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you talking about ecosystem and incontinence. I must say thank you to the Federation, the World Federation, especially to Marilyn for her confidence inviting me here to talk about ecosystem and incontinence. Thank you very much, and congratulations for this week, Continence Week 2022. I know the enormous effort you have made behind this week. Congratulations, and as our famous F1 pilot Fernando Alonso says, keep passion because you are in the right way to win the race. So here we go. I would like to talk to you about what an ecosystem, or the ideal ecosystem, is for me, which is our way of working, of treating to interconnect of the elements of the incontinence ecosystem in our environment. If we talk about an ecosystem, we all know it's a complex network of interconnected elements. I think there are two main actors, elements of this ecosystem: professionals and patients. And there are other actors, of course, as community, understanding of community, citizens, government, healthcare providers. Professionals. Let's talk about professionals. When I talk about professionals in this ecosystem, there is one main word that appears, keywords that appear glowing: teamwork. Teamwork is a must-do when you are working in continence. Teamwork is not a group of people working in the same room. Teamwork is a group of people committed to solve the problems of our patients. Teamwork means working in a multidisciplinary way. Here we are working with gynecologists, urologists, surgeons, physiotherapists, physical therapists, anesthesiologists, and of course primary care physicians, all together in order to give the correct way of treatment to our patients. Because when we are working together, we are working with one main objective, which are working in healthcare outcomes. These are the outcomes that are important for the patients. Second point is working, making information traveling and not the patients. We are prepared to work together using the information we have about the patient, and we don't need the patient be traveling between us all the specialists. And what is more important, we are working to give the same answer to the same problem in different moments, different patients, and when different professionals are treating the same problem. We are committed to make the lowest variability possible when we are treating different patients with the same problem. Which tools do we have for this? We have three main tools from my point of view. One tool is the digital skills we have to develop on the digital tools we have in the everyday work, but two main skills. All our professionals, hard skills we have developed during years, but what is more important, even in the digital world, were our human skills, what are called in other hand as soft skills. I prefer to call them human skills. What about the patients? If we talk about the patients, I think this is the main or the key point to work here in our environment with the patients. We all professionals consider we are responsible of the care of the patients, but patients are responsible of the way they are living or they are managing their illness. In this case, we are talking about incontinence. So if we get this point as true, you must now that then we have to work all together in the same team. So this is another key point of working in an ecosystem as we are working now. We need to work not for the patients, not only for the patients, but with the patients. So in the teamwork, the glowing word I was talking to you about when I was talking about professionals, the teamwork should include in the future our patients. Our patients, we need our patients to have in the future a more important role in the decision making, and we need to improve the health literacy of our patients in different manners, because we need them to work together with us and to make our system sustainable, because there is a really key point to talk here about. Probably if you want to make incontinence or continence ecosystem sustainable, the key point to get it sustainable is including the patient in the decision making. Don't doubt about that. This is true. You need your patients to make it sustainable. And we are professionals and patients, we are all living in the community. And the community, it's in another way, is generally understood as citizens, healthcare providers, governments. There is one key point there key objective there to get into, to make our ecosystem, continence ecosystem sustainable and in the best way possible. That is verified information. These two words are keys to get what we want. We need to work, we professionals need to work in the community, and that is as important for us as the work we perform in the surgery room. There are other figures that are very important for patients and for the community. That is the expert patient figure or the patient schools that are, of course, are tools, are very interesting tools to develop, to improve the health literacy of our patients and improve the life of our continence ecosystem. So finishing, because I don't want to be long, because I want only to give to you one important message. We need to work together, professionals, patients, inside our community. We have our tools, we have our objectives, but at the end of the day, the main work here is working together, making a team in order to make continence treatment sustainable. Thank you very much. It has been really a pleasure to be here, and I hope we will work together, Mary, Lynn, we will work together in other moments in order to make this possible.
That's important input there from Pedro, and thank you, Pedro. I know you're traveling today, but I think this important message of involvement of the community and patients is central to the development of any ecosystem, and we've seen that with many of our ecosystems who've sometimes taken a while to get going because the needs never presented. It's always sometimes the temptation is to look at it as a showcase for new technology rather than the other way around. And I think where that stops is when patients start getting involved, and I think people can then hear that message. So thank you for that. I think it's a vital message. So we've got that message from Pedro from Spain. We're going to go now to listen to Anna Martinsson from Sweden, who works for Sonova, and she's also a urologist as well. We've got a video from Anna who couldn't be with us today, but she sent this video, and then we've got two more inputs, live inputs from both Tomas and Jana, following that video. So if we could share the video from Anna, here we go.
Hello everybody. My name is Anna Martinsson, and I work as a urotherapist at the University Hospital Sahlgrenska in Gothenburg. I will thank Lynn and Margot and the rest of the committee that organizes this event for inviting me, and I'm very sad that I can't be there with you. Right now, I'm up in Dalarna in Sweden, prepared to celebrate Midsummer Night tomorrow. As I said, I work as a urotherapist in the urology department in the University Hospital of Gothenburg. This is a specialization that you can study as a nurse or as a physiotherapist or a doctor, and we are specialized in helping people that suffer problems from the bladder, the pelvic floor, and the bowel. I work in a small department in the big urology department, the urotherapy department or consultancy, and I work there together with my colleague. We receive patients, the referrals of the patients will come either from the primary care or from other specialists or from our urologists in our own department or unit. And me and my colleague, we look at the referrals and we decide how to start helping the person that needs our help. I have 1 hour for each patient, and I can do everything from just speaking to the patient and taking their medical history with all the symptoms and problems that they present, their worries and their thoughts about their problems, or I can teach them how to self-catheterization, or I can do the urodynamic explorations. I do bladder installations if they have sore bladders. And we also work as a expertise for our colleagues as we have a specialization that and knowledge that other nurses in the department doesn't have. We get sometimes we call ourselves the Sherlock Holmes of the urology department, because many times we get referrals from that concerns patients that no one knows what to do with them. They have tried everything, medicine, lifestyle changes, and nothing has worked, and then they come to us. And I really think it's a very it's a work that gives a lot of satisfaction, because we really can help people and change their daily way of living and their quality of life, just by giving them some advices or some tricks and tips, or or telling them where to seek other help if we can't help them, and that is very important. We also keep in touch with the patients and give them support during a long time or period if it's needed. It depends on what problems they have. We also collaborate with other urotherapists that has other specializations. Like I have another colleague, she is a physiotherapist, and she has specialized in bladder, pelvic plane, pelvic floor, and bowel problems. So if there comes up a problem like with the pelvic floor that I can't resolve, I will send the patient to my colleague, so we together can do the best for the patient. Except for this, I also am a member of the board of Sinoba. Sinoba is a patient organization or association here in Sweden, and we help people that has bladder and pelvic floor problems, not bowel. What we try to do, I mean, we have created a website that we just started this autumn. There was an old one, but we have made it more modern. And in this website, we give like general information about bladder problems that women can have, men can have, and children can have. But we also have this service about the asking Sinoba. So if a person finds out about Sinoba and wants to ask something, we are several professionals in the board that can answer the questions. But the main purpose of Sinoba, I think, is that especially lately, we are really trying to raise the awareness of bladder problems in the society. And we do that by trying to raise the knowledge about this among our colleagues out in the primary care. Because normally the patient tries to, or goes to the primary care center first and try to get help there, and we find that our colleagues out in the primary care, they have a big lack of knowledge about these problems. So what we have started to do since some years ago, we certify bladder or incontinence consultancies that they create within the primary care center. And then we have some criteria that you have to fulfill to get this certification. One is that at least one person has to have made a course for 8 months about bladder and pelvic floor problems, incontinence. It must be a team that is composed of at least one nurse and one physiotherapist or one doctor. And they have to have a bladder scan. They have to use the formulas, the bladder diary, for example, to fulfill with the patient. And they have to initiate the first steps that you do to treat the problems that the patient presents. And right now we have certified 10 consultancies, and it's in all Sweden, and it's not only in Gothenburg. And it's really satisfying to see how the awareness raises and how people get more and more concerned about this problem. And also that, I mean, the patient starts to ask for help about these problems. Well, that's what I wanted to tell you. I hope that you will have an interesting day, and I wish you happy midsummer.
Always nice to know that people are celebrating midsummer. It should be done, obviously, not more often because it wouldn't be the summer, but more in more places. So thank you for that, Anna. Now we've got the luxury of hearing from two of our live participants. First, I'm going to get on a virtual jet plane and fly over to Poland and introduce Tomasz. Tomasz, we've got some time. I'm obviously some time to listen, but just tell us, because this is the luxury you get because you're live. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with WFIPP and what you do in Poland as well, please.
Yeah, I've got a short presentation, but of course I would like to say something related more to WFIPP. Thank you very much for invitation, for being together with you today in this sunny day. I hope it's also in your country. I am since the beginning of the WFIPP, when we established our organization many years ago, something, Lynn, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that, in Rome. And since that time,
2006.
There you go, 2006.
All right, so I wasn't wrong too much. and we decided to let's say create some kind of ecosystem within people involved in our own countries with incontinence issues. And as we can see from our experience, that was very worthy time, because we could learn from each other a lot, and we could develop many activities, many new projects in our own countries based on our international experience. So I am pretty sure that this kind of international ecosystem network must be very much valuable for everybody who decides to join this. All right, my presentation. Let me try to show you.
Always nice to have a bit of a flavour of an introduction. So that's helpful, that, Tomasz. Let's see if we can see your screen.
Here we go. Yeah, I hope
Wonderful.
you can see it. Yeah, this is our let's say best practice examples of Poland based on our patients advocacy group, which is called Euroconti Association, which was established actually just 1 year after WFIPP was established. Before it was a little different organization, but since that time, we've got over 1,000 active members working in 9 regional branches, and our main tasks are multidisciplinary approach to the both urinary and fecal incontinence. We base on the comprehensive care, and one of the very important tasks is of prevention and hygiene in caring for a patient with urinary and fecal incontinence, which means we are also very much involved in long-term care with disabled person or just dependent old persons living both at home or in the institutional care homes. And of course, last but not least, this is very important task still in my country, is to access a wide range of therapeutic methods, because we are still a little bit behind of Western Europe. Our main activities are lectures, educational lectures, and pelvic floor muscle trainings groups, which are very popular during the last few years. We usually could organize more than 1,000 hours annually in various places. And of course, which is very good tool to do network, it's in World Continence Week. We try to organize, we try to host our local national World Continence Week since 2011. Then we publish socioeconomic reports and newsletters just to publish what we know. just to share our knowledge based on evidence-based medicine, which is very important for us, just to show people that you have to be very careful where are you going to learn from. And of course, using these tools, we can widen the access to the latest therapeutic methods for our patients. This is our regional conference, which was called Calm Your Bladder, which became very, very popular. And the funny thing is that we've just started when the pandemic came to Europe. It wasn't very easy to organize. You can see some pictures from this period of time. We have to go through the very strict rules of organizing this kind of meetings, but people really needed to come again and see each other after staying at home almost 1 year time. Publications, very important tool to share knowledge and to promote our view, our let's say awareness related to incontinence matters. We've been able to publish since 2002, so it was even before the Eurocountry was established, 81 issues with still the same circulation of around 3,000 copies, and of course the electronic version available download on the www.ntn.pl. For the last 11 years, we also decided to publish socioeconomic reports, which are now very important lecture also for decision makers. They usually use these reports when they start to talk about incontinence publicly, especially publicly. And of course, newsletter, which is also very useful tool to share the experience and knowledge based on the patients and medical professionals' views. Social media. We can imagine, like in many countries, since the pandemic came, social media became even more popular than it was before. We are active on the Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And World Continence Weeks. During the last 3 years, we had to move once from stationary meetings to the network, to the internet, to online meetings. You can see some pictures from online sessions. All these sessions were recorded and they are available on YouTube channel, which means people still can learn from this meetings. And what is important, I think, the important thing is that we've been able to invite more than 15 representatives of more than 15 years representative of the 15 medical disciplines. They were so shocked that from so various disciplines, we all can talk about incontinence issue, because it is so common problem that even when you go to someone who thinks is very far away from the incontinence, they can find some common visions, common patients they deal with. So that was a really big surprise for them, that incontinence could be so multidisciplinary disease. Fundings, of course, it's very difficult to work without funding. So we still try to work and collaborate with the main key players, industry players on our market, as well as we also get more and more public fundings from the government, which seems to be more and more interested in raising awareness among incontinence. Right, institutional cooperation, very important network we've been able to build on the national and international level. Of course, when we are talking about the national level, we work with the umbrella organizations where the Eurocountry is a member, but also we We try to work in a very close matter with selected ministries, National Health Fund, Agency for Health Technology Assessment and Tariffs, as well as Patients' Rights Ombudsman. And of course, Euroconti is a member of WFIPP. When we are talking about the multidisciplinary cooperation, these are some kind of examples of medical professionals who represent various areas of medicine discipline, and they are really proud to be a part of our network and to work together on various projects. For example, I give you some picture of our cooperation with the Supreme Council of Nurses and Midwives. 5 years ago, they've been saying that they know everything about incontinence because they are nurses, they are midwives, they know everything. But then when we, let's say, close the cooperation with this chamber, they easily discovered that they could learn a lot from our organization, from our association, and let's say result of this cooperation was the first guideline on incontinence prepared together with group of nurses and midwives, published and distributed among over 300,000 nurses and midwives in our country. This is our successes. I just give you some kind of examples what we have to gain when we are talking about access to treatment, access to reimbursement pharmacological drugs, or access to absorption products, which are, as you know very well, are the key success for each person with incontinence. So as you can see, we've been able to gain a success almost every year in some kind of fields, but still we need to do more, and this is also a good key to integrate people and to motivate them to work together, because they know that we still can gain much more than we've done so far. Take-home message. We put attention on cooperation team, on the multinational cooperation team, doctors, nurses, midwives, physiotherapists, because usually they don't cooperate on everyday basis. And when we want to introduce new therapies, we have to do some kind of joint commitment of healthcare professionals and patients, and then we can get success. And I am really proud that our medical professionals believes in this structure of cooperation, and they could see many times that it worked, and that's the best proof to develop this kind of cooperation. Thank you very much, and please do not forget about our eastern border with Ukraine. This is the picture from our border. We still see many refugees coming to Poland and then going to whole Europe. Thank you very much for support, and please do not forget there is still war in Ukraine. Thank you.
Very important message, that, Tomas, and one which we echo and share with we've established our Ukraine Health Connector. We'll put details again for people to see there. But now that war is not going away, and it's on our border.
Yeah.
And worth remembering that today as much as any day. I think just a couple of takeaways for me, and this again, because we can do this live, it's great. There's so many resources there that we'd love to be able to share via what we do with our thematic ecosystem. Is we all the presentations, all the videos from today, but also any resources you've got there that you want to share wider, that are shareable, obviously. Please feel free to send them to us as well, because obviously we can share that wider too across our network. I think those take-home messages were important in terms of commitment and cooperation. Those silos are not unique to the field of continence. I think getting professionals to work together is what I think when I started work in 1992 it seemed to be very hard then, and that before the age of the digital technology. So we seem to be getting further apart from each other, which is not good. I'll be coming to our next speaker, Jana, in a moment. I just think one of the things I'd also suggest as well is there's so many things here I think are replicable across border. So if you've got any resources that are also shareable in English or Polish as well, we can always share those too, because obviously we've got connections in Poland that maybe are different than yours, so we can help that, but also in bordering countries as well. So please feel free to, and obviously join them. You're a patient organisation. Join us. You can join us for free as well, and we can amplify that, and then you can share that information with our network too. Because I think those successes that you posted there are worth celebrating and doing a deeper dive down, because I think that shows in which the power that and strength you've got within your organisation, just within Poland. That's replicable elsewhere. We can scale that up in other countries, because I think that's got impact outside of Poland. So please feel free to join us and get involved. I think there's so many lessons to learn from what you've done over the years you've been doing this within Poland, and obviously your connections with WFIPP have helped to amplify that, and we can do that too, with both our networks, not but to use the power of both amplification methods. So thank you for that, Thomas, and your time with your presentation. Okay, we've got the opportunity now to go to live again to listen to Anna, who told us very complicated at the beginning. He's from Barcelona, lives in Paris, but actually is in the UK. So I've tried to remember that as much as I can. Anna works with, I think, with Medtronic. And you're going to talk to us now and give us an input from your side. But before I do, I'll ask again, like I could do with Thomas, if we could, just a little bit about who you are and where you are would be really helpful as well before we do any presentations.
Yeah, sure.
This
Thanks,
is a people-based
Andy.
business.
Yeah, thanks, Andy, and hello, everyone. So I'm Jana Rodriguez. As Andy said, I'm living in Paris, but I'm from Barcelona, and now I'm in UK. It's weekend, so I was visiting my brother that lives here. And basically, my role in Medtronic is a market development manager for Western Europe. And when you mention that about amplification and how to leverage materials, tools, ADS best practice is what indeed is what I'm doing, because across Europe what I'm seeing is that my team in Spain, in Italy, in France, everywhere in Europe, Northwestern Europe, are doing amazing things. They have a huge networking, and of course that has to be used and has to be shared, and we can leverage all this stuff internally and externally. The same with the relationship and best practice with the patient advocacy groups, with the physicians, with the local societies, with the European societies. All this ecosystem is what the main reason that we are now speaking about this, right? So having said that, I want to share my screen just now to start with my presentation. And you can interrupt me if you want to ask anything, please feel free. But basically, I want to start also saying thanks to WIFIP for inviting me on sharing best practice that we are running together, but also more specifically saying thank you to Lynn, because we have achieved a lot of milestones together, and I think that is very important to mention, because since we met in, I think that was 2019, in the first international WIFIP International Forum that was in Barcelona. And I was just joining this business because I was coming from another one within Medtronic. Since there, we have done a lot of things. We have connected with different stakeholders around the world. And I think that this is the beauty of all this work together. And I can show some examples here in my presentation. A little bit about the agenda. I want to start first who we are, who is Medtronic, and why I'm here, because we are offering something also to the whole population, and why this ecosystem. And of course, I want to show you some examples on what we could do together to meet this common goal. And the last is the how, that of course I would like also to have an open discussion with you. Let's start with Medtronic. So basically, our technology, SAFE, is helping more than 70 million people. That means 2 people per second. So as I'm sure that you know, the pacemaker, surgical products that Medtronic has. So it's the industry is very important also to understand what we are offering to our patients. More specifically for incontinence, we have served 350,000 patients over the world, improving the access and simplifying the pathway to get the right treatment. And this is very important because one of the things that I've seen is that the most important thing here is to understand the pathway, the therapy pathway. And patients needs to understand it, needs to see what's next if that is not working. And also GPs, physicians, all the stakeholders involved in that pathway. And it's our responsibility to give that education to the different stakeholders. And nowadays, due to the COVID situation and the digital world that we just landed, just this year we have got 8.3 million of impressions. That means that is the total reach, the overall reach that we have had in digital, just in 1 year, just in digital campaigns. We have generated this education and awareness for patients to empower them to seek help. And this is very important because we can do much more. It's a huge opportunity for us to raise awareness on the therapy, on the pathway, and help patients to seek for treatment. So why this? Why it's important to understand some figures behind? Because 1 in 15 adults in Europe suffers from fecal incontinence. And this is about 27 million. If we compare versus Alzheimer, is even more. So that's a huge data that we have to keep in mind. But what happens that because it's a taboo, people don't speak up. And this is exactly what we need to show to the world, that is not anymore a stigma. People has it and it's normal, but it's not a normal part of the age. There are solutions, and speaking, that's why I also have this hashtag Toilet Talk Now, because for World Continence Week, what we wanted to do is to break this stigma and help patients, family, cares to speak up. The same for overreactive bladder, OAB. 1 in 6 adults in Europe. So imagine 46 million adults in Europe suffers OAB. Again, this is more than the people that suffers vision problems. So imagine the huge amount of people that is suffering in silence. And urinary incontinence is 2 times more common in women than in men. Another data. But just for you to know, and there are a lot of numbers here, but it's just the journey, the patient journey for OAB and for fecal, the total amount of population, the total amount of adults in Europe. Look at how many are seeking for treatment. 51% of this total amount seeks for treatment, but 65% of these people seeking for treatment, the conservative treatment is not working. then the people drop off. They don't continue with the pathway, the treatment pathway, because they don't know, because they are not informed enough, because different reasons. So is exactly in there what we need to influence. We need to influence on educating GPs, physicians, physiotherapists, all the stakeholders again, that what's next. They have to know what's next and inform the patients on that, because then there are the conservative treatments. If they are not responding, there is also other treatments coming along the pathway that needs to be known from everyone, and it's our responsibility to enable these next steps. Same for fecal incontinence. So as I said, Medtronic, we have the sacral neuromodulation therapy that it's in the third line treatment. That means that is almost at the end of the pathway. If conservative treatment is not working, then you go to the advanced therapies, and sacral neuromodulation is there. And it works very well for overreactive bladder, OAB, urinary incontinence, and fecal incontinence. And it's proven. We have a lot of data, because since 25 years ago that InterStim is in the market, sacral neuromodulation therapy, and it's proven that saves lives and is the third line treatment that is really working for patients suffering incontinence, fecal and urinary. What we can do then? What we can do, knowing that there are treatments available, that's the first thing that patients need to know. What us as the industry can improve all that ecosystem. It's very easy. So we are the industry. There are associations, patient advocacy groups, local, WIFIP as the World Federation, and then of course physicians, healthcare professionals with local societies, scientific societies, European ones, the ones that are also launching the guidelines, the professionals who know the scientists behind, right? We need to connect all the dots, because together we can influence, we can go to the health economic ministry, wherever, and strengthen forces to justify and improve life of patients together. Right? Because we have the same objectives, the same goals, same messages, that at the end is to improve the quality of life. And it's here where we have to join efforts. How? I'm going to give you some examples that we've done this year. Is exactly, so for us, we have a different fiscal year, but anyway, so last year, what we've done. So with WIFIP, we have collaborated with them on the previous World Continence Week, and of course this one as well. And this, you can see here the total reach of patients that we've got from digital campaigns. And of course, collaborating with webinars, with workshops, local workshops, and so on. With scientific societies, the same. With the EAU Society, with the ACS Society, we are sponsoring things. We are working together in congresses, in digital, to make sure that we achieve our goals together. With the industry, why not? We have a company and a startup that is called Tonica, that they are it's an app for physicians and for GPs, and what we are doing is to make sure that they have the education needed to understand the pathway, the patient pathway, because again, is to make sure that the patients are knowing what's the right treatment at the right time. And more campaigns going on. Now we have again the World Continence Week 22, and another campaign that we are organizing for a patient roundtable that we are organizing, and WIFIP is leading during the EAU Congress next week. So basically, those are some examples of ways of collaboration with the different stakeholders involved in the pathway. What could we do together then? As I said, we need to create awareness We need to create awareness in different ways. Could be via social media campaigns, local PRs, where we can sign off together, World Continence Week, national days, and so on. Generate knowledge with patient videos, patient materials, testimonials, and physicians here can help a lot because they are the ones connecting with the patients and also patient advocacy groups. That is one of the things that they are doing. So all these things that then we can spread, we can disseminate across the world are the things that really matters. And last but not least, collaborate with different stakeholders. As I said, it's very important, again, with societies, patient advocacy groups, and the industry as well. That's my call. So we should partner together because we have the same values. And if we encourage an open debate, we will have more strength to then fight with the other stakeholders, public stakeholders together, right? It's very important to create awareness around incontinence and break the stigma. Combine our network to reach more patients. And that is one of the things that WIFIP is doing very well, because if we are here together, it is thanks to them, because they have put us in contact, and is another example. Educating on the treatment pathway to offer patients the right treatment at the right time, super important, because it's a pity to see when one patient spends 1 year to have the first consultation, because they are not, they don't know anything, they don't know where to go, in addition to the stigma, of course. Pool and share experience and best practice with each other. One of the things that I really like with my team is when someone from one country shares one best practice from a patient advocacy group to another country, and then they build up the same story. So this is very nice to see, and how they are impacting also patient experience, empowering patients, developing referral pathways, empowering neurogenic patients population, because don't forget that the neurogenic population is one of the populations that are suffering more incontinence, because for instance, the multiple sclerosis, and they thought that they are safe because multiple sclerosis is under control, but at the end they have collateral issues, such incontinence, that maybe they don't share, but is also a target population that we should also consider in our environment. And finally, create an environment for sustainable continence, as WIFIP and in different events we've seen that is, for instance, World Continence Week is one of the main themes for this year. And last but not least, I encourage you to check out all these pages. We have the Pelvic Health Twitter account, the Pelvic Health LinkedIn, and Super Incontinence, that I'm very proud to say that it's an amazing work what WIFIP has put in here, because it's one of the sites that it's translated. First of all, it's translated in 7 different languages, and then is a place where it has science, it has patient approach, it has everything needed to understand how looks like the patient pathway in a patient point of view. And I think that society should empower also this place, because, and I'm saying that I'm from the industry and we have our Medtronic patient sites, but I understand that Medtronic patient sites are more focused on the therapy, but in this case is about raising general awareness on the disease, general awareness on incontinence, and to understand what to ask, where to go, and all these things that when you are suffering, you are not ready to see. So here is just an overview of the page that you can serve in here. You can do your own assessment as a patient to understand if you are really having an incontinence issue. And if you go through those topics, you can figure it out. The first solution, and is to speak with to have the first consultation with your GP. That's all. Thank you very much. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. If not, I'm happy also to connect with my team, all of you, local patient advocacy groups, local societies. So my team is working very hard to make sure that we are connecting with the different external stakeholders. So I think that together we can do a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jana. I think fantastic information there. And what we can see really clearly is impact, and the work you've done on the support and continence field is fantastic. I think that's we've seen that as a usable and scalable resource, which is not to be undervalued at all. And I think certainly we've seen from the work you've done here with your presentation in social media impact, and that's important, and one which we can all talk about, but you've got demonstrable impact there. So I think, as you started off with saying, and we've talked about this, so many dots to connect here. I think someone who's based in Paris is from Catalonia. We've got some dots to connect between ourselves and you. I think that'd be the first thing we do to see where we can work together with Medtronic and amplify what you're doing with WFIPP. I think with the other piece that you mentioned there, I think that awareness raising, we'd like, if that's okay with you, to share the resources you just shared there again via our portal, so we can see that as those resources, not just your presentation, but if you've got other pieces as well you want to share there in terms of your LinkedIn pieces as well, that's also an offer there too. I think secondly, I'd like to connect up some dots between the work that we heard about from Tomasz. Tomasz, I'm looking to come to Poland, I think sometime in October. So it'd be good to connect up with you. I think I can't remember the exact, but it's the European Week of Active and Healthy Aging. So I'll hopefully be in Poland myself to physically connect there. Lynn, I'm conscious of time. I'm going to stick the microphone back in your hand and see if you've got any last words to connect. But before I do, this is the start. So we're going to be doing another one of these live next time, we hope, as in, with people during a week. Obviously, we tried to squeeze into the Continence Week as best we can, and a busy week it's been. But the next time we will focus on the topic of stigma. So we'll be interested to hear from inputs and stakeholders from need and solution for that subtopic. We're going to come back to you all with a date for that. But Lynn, over to you.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm excited. I know there aren't many of us online now, but we're going to take this recording and we're going to blow it. We're going to plug it. This is, for me, the icing on the cake this week. It really shows how we can work together from the various groups and how we get that message across. And it's a very important message. So that, for me, as I say, I'm writing all sorts of stuff down here. But what I am going to do, certainly next week, we've got the EU Congress, the scientific branch. I don't know how many people will come, but many, many thousands of urologists, nurses, therapists will, and we're going to get this message across. We've got a booth there, we've got a stand there also, and we're going to really, really blow it this time. We're going to go out there, and as I say, this is the finale for me of World Continence Week. Thanks to Andy and your team and the launch of this ecosystem. It really is so important to get this message across. I'll give you one example, a final example. Yesterday, the last 2 days I've spent in Brussels getting my head around all things digital, data sharing and the like. And I met up with many old friends and many new ones. And honestly, I felt there I was a kind of jumping off board for all matters dealing with incontinence, because as soon as people realized where we were coming from, or where I was coming from, oh, I'm a spina bifida survivor. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm 59 years of age and started to leak a few weeks ago. So I felt as though I was a kind of, I'm not a medic, but it was quite warming to actually see all these people. We're coming to someone like me and we're wanting to relate to the kind of stuff that we're doing, all the comorbidities as well. And there's this kind of common denominator. We all want a better life. We all want to improve ourselves and a better quality. And however we do it, it doesn't really matter as long as it gets done. And I think this ecosystem is going to be a prime mover in actually doing that. And as I say, I don't know what the others think, maybe very briefly, but today for me has been brilliant. I really like what we've heard today. So maybe very briefly, and I'll shut up now because I've said enough. I've got all sorts of stuff down here. But next week I'm going to make a point, and a very big point, with the professionals, and I'll see several of you there anyway. So anyone, very briefly, your thoughts?
I think that is, yeah, I love that this is the start. As you know, Lynn, I'm in, so we are in. Medtronic is in because is what we need. I mean, we need to go together, further together, you know, and only like this we can achieve the same goals. And I think that we have the same messages, the same objectives are there. And if all the stakeholders go together, patients we won't have any more patients, you know what I mean? So
great. This is the start. We'll take it from there. I think we've worked very hard this week. I think we all deserve a little bit of a break. I want to finish by thanking Margot for the tremendous effort that she's had and done this week. I hope she can actually relax a bit now and get some sleep after all the registrants coming in after an event. And as I say, we've had a massive response that now needs to be translated into real life and where we go from here. So we have a common journey, and I think the journey right now is to probably go and get a nice drink or something and relax a little. So thanks everyone ever so much, and Andy and your team, thanks as well.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Enjoy the
Have
rest
a
of your
nice
stay in
weekend.
England.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.